Hello, I'm Elliot Dickerhoof, and this is Beyond the Edit. Today I'm going to show you 7 super easy, life-saving shortcuts in Adobe Premiere Pro. Oh, hair's looking fabulous. So open Premiere, go up to keyboard shortcuts. It's actually a shortcut for keyboard shortcuts, but I don't use it. So this is the keyboard shortcuts panel. It allows you to see what your shortcuts are, to change them, to make them anything you want. When you open this up, chances are you're going to be in the Adobe Premiere Pro default, unless you've already made your own keyboard template. All the keys highlighted purple mean there is a shortcut for it, and it'll say what the shortcut is in that key. If it has a Caribbean turquoise kind of running through half of it, that means that there are modifiers. So if I press Shift, you can see I'm pressing Shift here, it'll show then what those shortcuts are if Shift is selected. If I press Command, it'll show what they are while I'm pressing Command. First shortcut, I think everyone should know, super easy, is Add Edit. I made it V just because the shape of the V reminds me of cutting into something like a knife, I guess. It's also super close to the spacebar, so I'm constantly spacebar, cut, but make it anything you want. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure it's something you'll remember and make sure it's something you can get to very quickly because you'll probably use it a lot. Okay, so if I come into the timeline and I push V, it makes a cut. It makes a cut at the playhead like that. And it does it through all the clips. If this had multiple clips and I pressed V, you can see it cuts the whole thing. Now, if I were to select just the video and press V, you can see it just cuts that, which is great. Also, if you have a track selected, it'll be the same thing. So as you go through and you're cutting and you're cutting and you're cutting and you're cutting, you'll notice it's only cutting just on that layer. Super easy shortcut to learn, saves you a ton of time. You know, you don't want to be coming over here to grab the blade tool and making cuts. That's just a lot slower. Even if you have a shortcut, which for me is B, you know, it's just a lot of mouse work to do what you can just do with a keystroke. The second shortcut I think is super valuable, has to do with getting around the timeline. When you've got this much footage, it really makes sense to be able to zoom in and out of this entire sequence very quickly. So let me show you how to do that. You'll go up to keyboard shortcuts, and what you're gonna wanna do is create shortcuts for zoom in and zoom out. So if you go in here and you type in zoom, the zoom tool is gonna come up. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is under sequence, you've got zoom in, zoom out. I like to make it one key. This says equals, but that's because in order to get a plus sign, you have to press, I think, Shift, and I don't want to do that. Anyway, you set that plus minus, and what that allows you to do is to zoom in to the timeline and zoom out of the timeline with just the press of a key. And if you hear that, you can zoom around this timeline like no one's business. Okay, so we've got zoom in and out, but let's say you're zoomed all the way in and you don't want to hit the key 70 times to get back to the full timeline. And it's called zoom to sequence. Wow, what a name. Zoom to sequence, that's shortcut number 3. Again, make it whatever you want. I like Shift Z. I think that's what it was in Final Cut 7. If that even was a shortcut in Final Cut 7, I've forgotten that entirely. I've been using Premiere for years now. Okay, so let's say you want to change this. What you can do is come into here and search it out, click on this. Let's say you want to make it Shift Q. Highlight it, take this out, highlight it, Shift Q. Now, when you hold Shift, Q is zoom to sequence. I don't want that, so I'm gonna press cancel. So you're in the timeline, you're zoomed all the way in, and you want to get out to see the whole sequence. Shift Z, Shift Q, whatever you're using, super easy, gonna save you a ton of time getting around the timeline. Okay, the next shortcut I want to show you is the slip tool. The slip tool is amazing. I use it all the time. It allows you to change the in and out point of a clip on the timeline without having to move the physical clip itself. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you get this little guy, and what you do is you just click, hold, and drag. On the left, you see the in frame, and on the right, you see the out frame. I wanna go forward and show him taking it out. Press S, go on the clip, and then you can just adjust in the timeline without changing the position of the clip. You know you want the clip to be about this length, but you wanna show a different portion of the clip super fast, super easy. The next shortcut I want to show you is Enable Clip. For some strange reason, I use it all the time. I've got it set as E on my keyboard shortcuts, and basically what that allows you to do is just disable a clip, enable a clip. With the kind of projects I'm usually doing, this doesn't have that much audio, but a lot of times I'll have 5, 10, 15 tracks of audio, and you don't want all of it. So instead of deleting it, because I might want to use it later, I'll just turn it off. And so if you want a clip and you don't want the audio, that's an easy way to do it. Another thing that you could do is you could have, multiple clips stacked on top of each other because you're trying out, what you want at that moment. And then instead of deleting it, you can just disable the clip and just kind of go through like, oh, is this the vibe that I want now? Is this the vibe that I want now? Is this the vibe that I want now? It allows you to kind of try things out without having to delete and undo a bunch of shit. The next shortcut I highly suggest you pick up right away is Apply Default Transitions to Selection. This will work with both audio and video. So you can actually choose what your default transition is by going into the effects panel, and you'll see the cross dissolve has this blue rim around it. That means it's default. If you right click, you can set it to be dip to black. I like the cross dissolve. I find it to be what I use the most. And then on the audio side, same thing with this constant power crossfade. So if I go in here and I've got a cut in the video and I've got a cut in the audio, if I just select the cut and I press G, it will add this cross dissolve that I can then make as big or short as I want. If I want to put a crossfade here, which is much more likely, I can press G as well. And you can change the default duration by going into Preferences Timeline. So the video transition default duration, I do 10 frames. I think that's just a good place to start. For the audio transition, I do 2 frames, and that's just because all I really want normally is just to smooth out those blips that sometimes occur between audio clips. As I zoom out, you can see it selects everything to the right of the timeline. There is also a track backward tool. I don't use this at all, but this one I use all the time. I just like to grab everything and throw it away, and then I've got this little space to work with. All right, that's it. I hope you got something out of this. Tune in next time for more shit.